My parents forced me to handle the rent and all the bills, while my sister enjoyed a carefree life without paying a dime. It's your duty, my dad claimed. But one day, I caught them bragging about a hidden vacation, funded with my money. When they came home to an empty house and saw a loan envelope on the table, their faces went pale. Inside was a full breakdown of every cent. I stared at my bank account, my stomach clenching tighter with every number I saw. $2,000. That was it. Everything left after paying the mortgage, the utility bills, and covering my sister Pearl's latest emergency car repair. I should have known Pearl wouldn't keep her promise to pay me back. I'm Grace, 26 years old, and my life is the exact opposite of what I imagined after college. Instead of that cool apartment downtown or trekking through Europe, I'm stuck in my old childhood bedroom, working 2 jobs, basically funding my whole family. Grace! My mother's voice floated up the stairs. The electricity bill is due tomorrow. Already paid it, Mom. I called back, quickly minimizing my banking app. $3,000, just gone. I hadn't even bought myself new work shoes, even though my current ones had holes clear through the soles. Oh, good girl. She appeared in my doorway, her perfectly manicured nails tapping lightly on the frame. We're just so lucky to have you. I honestly don't know how we'd get by without your help through these tough times. Tough times, right. That's what they'd said when I first moved back home after graduation. Just until we get back on our feet, Dad had promised. 6 months, tops. That was 3 years ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Pearl. OMG sis, look at these shoes I just got. Only $300. I clicked the image. Christian Louboutins. My sister's 3rd new pair this month. How can you afford those? I texted back. Don't be such a buzzkill. I got a bonus at work. Sure she did. Pearl's part-time job at the mall barely covered her phone bill, yet somehow she always had cash for shopping sprees and weekend trips with her friends. Grace, Mom again, your father needs to talk to you about the property taxes. I trudged downstairs to find Dad at the kitchen table, nearly buried under a mountain of papers. His reading glasses were perched on the end of his nose as he squinted at the figures. We're a little short this quarter, he mumbled, not looking up. About 4,000. Dad, I can't. I'm already stretched so thin. Family helps family, he cut in, finally meeting my eyes. The same old guilt trip. Your mother and I sacrificed everything to send you to college. This is just temporary, you know. I wanted to scream that I'd paid for college myself with loans. I was still chipping away at. But instead, I just nodded. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. That's my girl. He smiled, already turning back to his papers. Oh, and the roof needs fixing before winter. Start putting some money aside for that too. I escaped to the back porch, desperate for some fresh air. My coworker Rachel had invited me to happy hour. Tonight, but I'd said no, again. Every spare dollar I had went into keeping this house afloat while my parents pretended to be broke. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Pearl. Having the best sushi ever. Wish you were here. Attached was a photo, her and her friends at some fancy downtown restaurant, surrounded by expensive-looking plates. My dinner would be whatever. Scraps I could find in the kitchen, which, by the way, I also stocked. I was about to head back inside when I heard my parents' voices through the open window above me. They were on speakerphone with someone. Yes, we've got it all set up, Mom was saying, her voice practically bubbling with excitement. 2 weeks cruising through the Mediterranean. The cruise line even upgraded us to a suite. That's wonderful, a woman's voice I didn't recognize replied. When do you leave? Next month, Dad said. We figured after all these years of pinching pennies, we deserved something special for our anniversary. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. What about the kids? The woman asked. Mom laughed. Oh, Pearl's too busy with her social life to even notice we're gone. And Grace? Well, Grace will be here, looking after the house, like always. She's such a responsible one. You raised her well, the woman commented. We sure did, Dad agreed. Sometimes I feel a little guilty about how much we lean on her. But she's young. She can always make more money later. I stood rooted to the spot, listening as their cheerful cruise planning continued. A Mediterranean cruise, a sweet upgrade, all while I was eating instant ramen for dinner and putting off a necessary cavity filling because I couldn't afford the copay. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone, opening the banking app again. $2,000. That was what was left of my life savings, being drained away while they secretly plotted luxury vacations. Something inside me finally snapped. I stayed frozen on that porch, every word of my parents' excited cruise planning fueling a slow burn in my chest. The house account has more than enough, Mom was saying. We can even do those extra excursions in Greece. The house account. The same one they claimed barely covered property taxes and maintenance. The same one I'd been pouring thousands into every single month. And Pearl's coming shopping with me next week to pick out some new clothes for the trip. Mom added. She has such wonderful taste. I heard footsteps approaching the window and flattened myself against the wall. Through the glass, I saw Mom pacing, phone still in hand. No, Grace won't suspect a thing. She never checks the account statements, just transfers money in like clockwork. My legs finally decided to cooperate. I slipped back inside through the kitchen door, moving quietly upstairs, avoiding the creaky steps. Once in my room, I opened my laptop and logged into the joint account I shared with them. The one they'd insisted was vital for household emergencies. 3 years of statements. That's what I started downloading, my hands trembling as I clicked through each month. The truth was stark, printed in black and white. Spa days, designer clothes, weekend getaways. All while I skipped doctor's appointments and worked overtime at my second job. My phone buzzed. Rachel from work. Sure you can't make it tonight? We miss you. I started typing a reply, then another memory surfaced. Last month, that awful toothache. Mom, I need to get this cavity filled, I'd told her, but I'm short on cash after paying the property taxes. Oh, honey, we're all making sacrifices, she'd replied. Your father and I haven't had a vacation in years. I checked the bank statements. 2 days after that conversation, there was a charge for a day spa, $300 for a couple's massage package. A soft knock on my door made me jump. Grace, it's Pearl. Can I borrow your black dress? The designer one? I don't have any designer dresses, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Sure you do. Mom said she bought you one for Christmas. I frowned. Mom hadn't gotten me anything for Christmas. She'd said money was too tight. Oh, Pearl's voice faltered. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. After she left, I dug deeper into the statements. There it was. A charge from Nordstrom on December 23rd. A dress in my size that I had never seen. My phone buzzed again. Rachel. Seriously, come out tonight. You sound stressed in your texts lately. I stared at her message for a long moment. Actually, yeah, I could use a drink. Be there in 30 at the bar. Rachel took one look at my face when I arrived and immediately ordered shots. Spill, she said. What's wrong? I told her everything. The cruise, the secret spending, 3 years of calculated lies. By the end, I was gripping my glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Grace, Rachel said slowly. That's financial abuse. It's family, I replied automatically, then stopped. How many times had they used that exact word to manipulate me? No, Rachel shook her head. It's exploitation, and it needs to stop. Back home that night, sleep was impossible. Around midnight, I heard movement downstairs. Curiosity overriding caution, I crept down. Mom was in Dad's office, going through his desk. She pulled out a folder and started photographing the documents inside with her phone. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Oh, Grace, honey, you scared me, just looking for some old tax forms. At midnight? Well, you know me, she laughed nervously. Night owl. Go back to bed, sweetie. I waited until I heard her bedroom door close upstairs before checking the folder she'd been photographing. Inside was a stack of papers bearing my signature. Joint responsibility agreements, loan documents, credit applications, all dated from right after my college graduation. My hands shook as I read. According to these, I wasn't just tied to the house payments, I was legally bound to debts I knew nothing about. One document caught my eye, a student loan transfer form. Next to my signature was a note, transfer to Pearl Ryan Boutique Startup Fund. They had used my student loan money to fund Pearl's failed clothing store venture, the one they'd told me was financed by an inheritance from our aunt. Carefully, I took photos of every document, then returned them exactly as I'd found them. Back in my room, I created a new email folder labeled Evidence and uploaded the photos. Then I opened my browser and typed, How to legally separate yourself from family finances. It was time to plan my escape. The next morning, I called in sick to both jobs and drove across town to a small accounting office. My hands were sweating as I walked in, clutching my folder. Grace, is that really you? Valeria looked exactly as I remembered her from high school. Sharp eyes behind stylish glasses, silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun. She'd been our family accountant for years until she'd suddenly retired right after my college graduation. I need your help, I said, sitting across from her desk, and I need to know why you really stopped working with my parents. She studied my face for a long moment. Close. The door, she said. I did, then spread out the documents I'd photographed. Valeria's expression darkened as she went through them. I always wondered if they'd go through with it, she murmured. Go through with what? She pulled out a file from her cabinet. 3 years ago, your parents came to me with a proposal. They wanted to transfer all their debts into your name. Loans, credit cards, everything. Said it was temporary just until they got back on their feet. My stomach lurched. I refused to help them, told them it was unethical. They fired me the next day. She looked up sharply. But clearly they found someone else who would. What about Pearl's boutique? The student loan transfer? Valeria's face hardened. That money was meant for your graduate school. Your parents swore you'd agreed to give it to Pearl instead. I never... My voice cracked. I didn't even know I had graduate school money. There's more, Valeria said quietly. She pulled up files on her computer. Your parents opened several credit lines in your name. They used your social security number, probably from these documents you signed. She turned the screen toward me. The total liability. The number made my vision blur. Over $100,000. I'm going to be sick, I whispered. No, Valeria said firmly. You're going to be smart. I'm going to help you fix this, but you need to act fast. For the next 2 hours, we made plans. Valeria showed me how to freeze my credit, dispute unauthorized accounts, and document everything. She even called a lawyer friend who specialized in financial fraud. What about the house account? I asked. Transfer your portion out immediately, she said. They've been using your contributions for personal expenses. That money is legally yours. My phone buzzed. A text from Pearl. Mom's taking me shopping for cruise clothes. Want to come? I ignored it and turned back to Valeria. I need somewhere to live. They can't know I'm leaving until I'm gone. I might know someone, she said, reaching for her phone. A client of mine owns apartments across town. He's discreet. 20 minutes later, a man named Kingsley arrived. He looked more like a surfer than a landlord, with tousled hair and friendly eyes. Valeria explained the situation. I have a 1-bedroom available, he said. It's small, but secure, and I can offer you a reduced rate if you help manage some tenant communications. When can I move in? Today, if you need to. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thank you. Back. Home that evening, I found Mom in the kitchen, making dinner. The smell of her famous lasagna filled the air, my favorite meal. My stomach turned. There's my hardworking girl, she smiled. I made your favorite. Oh, and honey, she added. Casually, the property tax bill came today. I'll take care of it tomorrow, I said automatically, heading upstairs. In my room, I opened my laptop and started making lists. Bank accounts to close, bills to cancel, items to pack, a new email address to create, a knock at my door. I quickly minimized everything. Pearl bounced in, holding shopping bags. Look what Mom bought me for the... She stopped abruptly, her eyes widening. For the what? I asked quietly. For the work conference next month, she laughed nervously. Anyway, I got you something too. She pulled out a cheap scarf from one of the bags. The price tag was still on it, $12.99. Meanwhile, I could see the edge of a designer dress box peeking out of another bag. Thanks, I said flatly. After she left, I added another item to my list. Forward all mail to new P.O. box. My phone buzzed with a text from Kingsley. Apartment ready when you are. Key under mat. I looked around my childhood bedroom, at the walls, that had witnessed so many lies. In 2 weeks, my parents and Pearl would leave for their secret cruise. They had no idea they would come back to an empty house and a daughter who had finally learned the truth about family. I opened my banking app and started moving money. Are you sure about this? Rachel asked, helping me load another box into her car. Once you start, there's no going back. I'm sure, I said, checking that my bedroom window blinds were still closed. It was 5 a.m. and my family wouldn't be up for hours. Just 2 more boxes today. We'd been moving my belongings in small batches for a week now. Clothes, books, important documents, anything I could sneak out without raising suspicion. The rest would have to wait for moving day. Your new place is cute, Rachel said as we unloaded at Kingsley's apartment building. Small but cute. It's mine, I replied, and my voice cracked on the word. Actually mine. Back home, Mom was in the kitchen when I walked in. Where were you so early? Morning run with Rachel, I said, the lie coming easily now. Getting back in shape. Good for you, she beamed. Oh, speaking of exercise, I need your credit card for a moment. The gym membership renewal is due. Can't you use yours? Her smile tightened. You know money's tight right now, sweetie. Just until next month. I handed over my card, knowing full well she'd use it for cruise expenses. But it didn't matter anymore. This card would be canceled in 2 weeks. At work, I took my lunch break to visit the bank. I need to close all joint accounts, I told the manager, and open new ones at a different bank. Family accounts? She asked, typing. Not anymore. That afternoon, I created a spreadsheet of every bill I'd paid, every loan I'd covered, every emergency I'd funded. 3 years of financial records, meticulously documented. The total made me feel sick. My phone buzzed. Pearl, Dad says the roof is leaking in my room. Can you call the repair guy? Pretty please? I ignored it. Let them figure it out themselves for once. That evening, I heard Mom and Dad discussing their upcoming trip in their bedroom. Grace seems distracted lately, Mom said. Do you think she suspects anything? How could she? Dad replied. She never questions anything we tell her. Besides, we'll be back before she knows it. I gripped the stair railing so hard my knuckles turned white. The next morning, I took a sick day and met with the lawyer Valeria had recommended. They committed fraud, she said, reviewing my documents. Multiple counts. We can press charges. I don't want that, I said. I just want out. Then let's make sure you get out clean. She started drafting papers. No legal ties, no shared accounts, no way for them to touch my money again. Back home, I found Mom in my room, going through my desk drawers. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She jumped. Oh, just looking for that recipe I gave you last month. The one for lasagna. But I saw her slip something into her pocket. Later, I checked my desk. My newest bank statement was missing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and found Pearl sprawled on the couch online shopping, on her phone. Want to split an Uber Eats order? She asked. I'm craving sushi. Can't you use your own money? She laughed. Why so stingy? It's just food. I wanted to scream that it wasn't just food. It was 3 years of my life, my dreams, my future. Instead, I just went back upstairs. The next day, I met Kingsley to finalize the apartment details. Moving trucks booked for the 15th, he said, the day they leave for their trip. Perfect. I handed him an envelope, first and last month's rent. You know, he said, his expression kind. What they did to you, it's not okay. I know that now. When I got home, there was a thank you card from Pearl on my bed. Thanks for house sitting. While we're away, love you lots. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet one last time, added a few final entries. Mom's secret spa day, $400. Pearl's emergency car repair, $2,000. Dad's golf club membership, $1,500. Their Mediterranean cruise, priceless. 2 more days until they left. 2 more days of pretending everything was normal. 2 more days until I took back my life. I looked around my nearly empty room, at the bare walls and packed boxes hidden in my closet. Soon this would all be just a memory. An expensive lesson in what family shouldn't be. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Everything ready for Operation Freedom? I smiled and typed back. Almost. Waiting for them to leave so I can make my grand exit. I watched from my bedroom window as the Uber pulled away from our house, carrying my family to the airport. Mom had kissed my cheek, Dad had reminded me about the bills, and Pearl had waved excitedly from the back seat. None of them knew it was the last time they would see me in that house. The moment their car turned the corner, I pulled out my phone. They're gone, I texted to Rachel and Kingsley. Within 15 minutes, a moving truck pulled up outside, right on schedule. Morning, the driver said, checking his clipboard. Grace? That's me. I opened the front door wide. Everything's packed and labeled. Let's do this fast. I'd spent the last 2 weeks meticulously organizing my exit. Every box was marked, every item cataloged. The movers worked efficiently, carrying out my life piece by piece while I supervised. What's this? One of them held up a stack of papers I'd left on the kitchen table. That stays, I said quietly. It's their parting gift. The envelope contained everything. Bank statements showing their secret purchases, credit card bills, revealing their lies, loan documents they'd forged my signature on. And on top, a letter I'd spent hours writing. Dear Mom, Dad, and Pearl, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Here's a detailed account of everything you've taken from me over the past 3 years. Total household expenses, $48,762. Emergency loans, $31,450. Pearl's boutique, my stolen student loan, $25,000. Unauthorized credit cards in my name, $4,200. Your Mediterranean cruise, $12,000. Grand total, $121,412. Don't bother trying to contact me. All shared accounts are closed. All automatic payments are stopped. The house is your responsibility now, just like it always should have been. Enjoy your cruise. Grace. I'd added copies of their social media posts, Mom's spa day check-ins, Pearl's shopping hauls, Dad's golf club photos, all time-stamped on days they'd claimed to be broke. The movers finished in just under 2 hours. I did one final walkthrough of my bedroom, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Boarding soon, don't forget to water my plants. I deleted it without responding. In the kitchen, I laid my house key next to the envelope. Then I pulled out another set of documents, these ones from Valeria and the lawyer. Official notices of account closures, credit freezes, and fraud alerts. They would know exactly how thoroughly I'd severed ties. Ready to go? Rachel asked from the doorway. She'd come to drive me to my new apartment. Almost. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app one last time. Every account I shared with them had been drained, legally, since my name was on them. The money was now safely in my new private account at a different bank. I took a deep breath and started blocking numbers. Mom, Dad, Pearl, all their social media accounts, email addresses, everything. Now I'm ready. The drive to my new apartment felt surreal. Behind us, the moving truck followed with my belongings. 3 years of indentured servitude packed into cardboard boxes. They're going to lose their minds, Rachel said. They're going to lose a lot more than that, I replied. They can't afford that house without me, or their cars, or Pearl's shopping habits. At the apartment, Kingsley was waiting to help us unload. Welcome home, he said, handing me my new keys. It took another 2 hours to get everything inside. My furniture looked different in the smaller space, but it felt right. This place was mine. Really mine. Want us to stay? Rachel asked as the moving truck pulled away. Help you unpack? I shook my head. I need to do this part alone. After they left, I sat on my new couch and pulled out my phone. No messages yet. They were probably still in the air, but soon they'd land in Europe and the notifications would start. I opened my email and sent 4 pre-written messages to their utility companies, service cancellation notice, to their credit card companies, fraud alert, to their bank, account closure confirmation, to their mortgage company, removal of my name from all documents. Then I blocked every single company email address. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Pearl. About to take off. Thanks for watching the house. Best sister ever. I took a screenshot of the message, added it to my evidence folder, and finished blocking her number. Then I walked to my new kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and smiled. They had 2 weeks of luxury ahead of them. I had a lifetime of freedom. 3 days into my new life, Rachel forwarded me a screenshot from Pearl's Instagram story. Can't reach my sister. Anyone know if she's okay? Starting to worry. I laughed darkly. They must have just discovered the envelope. Your mom tried calling. The office today, Rachel texted next. I told her you don't work here anymore. She didn't take it well. My phone had been blowing up with blocked calls and messages for the past 24 hours. I'd gotten a new number, but kept the old one active to document their attempts. Later that afternoon, Valeria called. They're trying to access the house account, she said. The bank denied them. Your documentation of unauthorized spending worked. They're locked out. Good, I said, unpacking another box in my kitchen. How bad is it for them? Bad. The mortgage payment bounced this morning. And those credit cards they opened in your name? I've got the fraud department investigating. My hands shook slightly as I placed mugs in the cabinet. Any legal threats yet? They can't make any. The evidence is too clear. She paused. But, Grace, Pearl posted something concerning on social media about coming back early to fix things. I checked Pearl's Instagram. Sure enough, a new story. Cutting our trip short. Family emergency. Can't believe what's happening. Sartai. Sartai is not a common US hashtag, so I'll assume the user wants it to be a unique, perhaps made-up one, indicating distress or a location. An hour later, my old co-worker Maria messaged me. Your mom's here at the coffee shop telling everyone you had a mental breakdown and stole their money. Want me to set the record straight? No, I replied. Let them dig their own grave. That evening, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. It was Dad, writing from his work account. Grace, what you've done is unforgivable. We're your family. We gave you everything. Your mother is in tears. Pearl had to cancel her semester. Abroad. How could you be so selfish? The least you can do is answer our calls. I forwarded it to my lawyer without responding. The next day, Pearl's posts turned nasty. PSA. Watch out for toxic family members who pretend to care about you but are just waiting to stab you in the back. Rachel sent me more screenshots. Mom had joined local Facebook groups, posting about her mentally unstable daughter who needed help. The comments were full of sympathetic responses until someone who knew the truth started posting receipts of their spending. The post disappeared within hours. A week into my disappearance, Kingsley texted. Heads up. Your parents were asking about you at the building next door. They're getting desperate. I'd been expecting this. They'd try every apartment complex in the area, thinking I couldn't afford to live far from my old jobs. That afternoon, I got another email, this time from Mom. Sweetie, please come home. We can work this out. Yes, we made mistakes, but that's what families do. We forgive each other. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Is that what you want? To make us sick with worry? I added it to my documentation folder and kept unpacking. The next day, my lawyer called. They tried to report you for theft, she said. The police laughed them out of the station when they saw the evidence. But be careful. They're getting desperate. I glanced out my window at the security camera Kingsley had installed. I'm ready for them. Pearl's next Instagram post was a throwback photo of us as kids. Missing my sister. Wish she'd realize what she's throwing away. Family is forever. The comments were brutal. Didn't you steal her student loan money? Weren't you just bragging about your shopping sprees last week? Pretty sure family doesn't financially abuse family. She deleted it within minutes. That evening, I got a notification from my bank. They were trying to open a new credit card in my name again. The fraud alert blocked it instantly. Your father called the electric company, Valeria, texted. Tried to get them to put the bill back in your name. They refused. I smiled, remembering all the times they told me I couldn't survive without them. Now they were the ones struggling to keep the lights on. Rachel sent me one final screenshot for the day. Mom's latest social media post. Sometimes the people you help the most hurt you the worst, but we're still praying for our daughter to come to her senses. A mother's love is unconditional. I closed my laptop and looked around my new apartment. The walls were bare, boxes still scattered, but it felt more like home than that house ever had. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from Pearl. You just destroyed this family. No, I thought. They destroyed it themselves. I just stopped paying the bills. I was carrying groceries up to my apartment when I saw them. Mom, Dad, and Pearl, standing in the parking lot next to their car. My heart stopped, then started racing. Grace, Mom called out, rushing toward me. Finally, we've been looking everywhere. I dropped my groceries inside my door and stepped back out, closing it firmly behind me. Kingsley appeared from his office, phone in hand. Everything okay here? He asked, but his thumb was already moving over the keypad, calling security. This is a family matter, Dad said sharply. Please leave us. I'm staying, Kingsley replied, leaning against the wall. Mom reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Grace, honey, you're being ridiculous, she said, her voice taking on that sickly sweet tone I knew so well. Let's just go home and talk about this. Home? I laughed. You mean the house you can't afford without me? How's that mortgage payment working out? Dad's face darkened. We raised you better than this. After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done to me, I corrected. The loans in my name, the credit cards, my stolen student fund. Pearl stepped forward. It wasn't stealing. I needed that money for my business. A business that failed in 3 months while I worked 2 jobs to pay for your shopping sprees. We're your family, Mom's voice cracked. You can't just abandon us. Watch me. 2 security guards rounded the corner. Kingsley nodded at them. You need to leave, one guard said to my parents. We're not going anywhere without our daughter, Dad growled. Your daughter? I pulled out my phone. Let's talk about your daughter. Let's talk about the 3 years of bank statements, showing how you used me, the forged loan documents, the credit fraud. Should I call the police and show them? Mom's face went white. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I have copies of everything. Every lie, every theft, every manipulation. We gave you a roof over your head, Dad shouted. No. I gave you a roof and cars and vacations and Pearl's shopping addiction. I paid for everything while you cried poverty and lived like royalty. It wasn't like that, Pearl protested weakly. Really? Should we pull up your Instagram? All. Those posts about your shopping sprees and fancy restaurants while I ate ramen for dinner? The security guards moved closer. Last warning, one said. Leave now or we call the police. Grace! Mom tried one last time, tears streaming down her face. Please, we can't manage without you. That sounds like a you problem. My voice was ice cold. I'm done managing your lives, done funding your lifestyle, done being your personal ATM. After everything we sacrificed, Dad started, the only thing you sacrificed was my trust. And if you ever try to contact me again, if you ever try to use my name for anything, I'll press charges for fraud. I have enough evidence to put you all away. You'd send your own parents to jail? Pearl gasped. You'd steal from your own daughter? I shot back. Mom started sobbing dramatically. Dad's face was purple with rage. Pearl just stood there, finally, seeming to understand the magnitude of what they'd done. Get out, I said quietly. Get out, and never come back. The security guard stepped forward, and finally, my family started backing away. This isn't over, Dad called over his shoulder. Yes, I said. It is. I watched them retreat to their car. Your karma arrived. It just came riding in under my name. They drove away, Mom still crying, Pearl looking back through the window. I waited until their car disappeared before my legs started shaking. Kingsley touched my shoulder gently. You okay? No, I admitted, but I will be. Back in my apartment, I sat down and opened my laptop. First, I emailed my lawyer with a detailed account of what had just happened. Then I checked my bank accounts. All secure. No new attempts at access. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I replied. Tears, threats, guilt trips, the usual. You're free now, she texted back. Really free. I looked around my small apartment at the life I was building for myself. No more funding their luxuries. No more crying poverty while they lived large. No more guilt trips and manipulation. Pearl's last voice message played in my head. You just destroyed this family. No, I thought. I just stopped letting them destroy me. My phone buzzed again. An email notification. Mom, trying one last time. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I clicked delete without reading further and blocked her new email address. They were right about one thing. Family is forever, but sometimes forever needs to end. The real estate listing popped up in my email. Foreclosure. Beautiful family. Home. Below was a photo of my old house, looking smaller and shabbier than I remembered. They couldn't keep up with the payments, Valeria said over coffee. The bank's taking it next week. I stirred my latte, surprised by my lack of emotion. Where are they living now? Your parents moved into a small apartment, Pearl's couch, surfing with friends. She paused. They tried to use your name for a rental application last week, and the fraud alert stopped them cold again. She smiled. The system you set up is working perfectly. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Got the promotion. Dinner tonight to celebrate. Absolutely, I replied. My treat. I could afford treats now without 3 extra people draining. My accounts. I'd paid off my legitimate debts and even started a savings account. The money that used to fund their lifestyle now funded my future. Oh, Valeria said, pulling out some papers. The investigation into those fraudulent credit cards is complete. The company's agreed to clear your name entirely. I took the documents, remembering how scared I'd been when I first discovered those cards. Now they were just paper, powerless. At work that afternoon, I got an unexpected visit. Pearl stood awkwardly by my desk, looking thinner and less polished than before. Security called up, I said coldly. You have 2 minutes. I got a job, she blurted out. A real one, full-time, and I'm seeing a therapist. She twisted her hands together. She's helping me understand what we did to you. I said nothing. Mom and Dad won't go to therapy. They still think you're the problem. She swallowed hard. But I know better now, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay back my student loan money. I know. She pulled out an envelope. This is my first paycheck. It's not much, but I want you to have it, to start paying you back. I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. Keep it. Consider it the cost of learning who our parents really are. Grace, your 2 minutes are up. She left the envelope anyway. I shredded it without opening it. That evening at dinner, Rachel raised her glass. To freedom. To consequences, I added, clinking glasses. Speaking of consequences, she said. Did you see your mom's latest Facebook post? I hadn't. I'd blocked them all months ago. Rachel showed me her phone, missing my daughter every day. Sometimes the hardest thing is accepting that toxic people need to be left behind, even if they're family. Boundaries? Just self-care. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my wine. The irony. The comments are savage. Rachel grinned. Everyone knows the truth now. Back home, I found a letter from my lawyer. The last attempt by my parents to access my accounts had resulted in a formal cease and desist order. Any further attempts would trigger automatic legal action. I added the letter to my closure file, the same one that held all the evidence of their fraud. Not because I needed it anymore, but as a reminder of why I'd done what I did. My phone buzzed with a text from Kingsley. Your dad was asking about you at the coffee shop down the street. Want me to warn them? No need, I replied. They can't hurt me anymore. I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family was learning to live without their safety net, without their personal bank, without me. My therapist had asked me last week if I felt guilty. I didn't. They'd spent 3 years teaching me that family meant sacrifice, but they'd never specified it had to be my sacrifice. A final text came through from Pearl's new number. The house. Sells tomorrow. Mom's crying about your old room. Says she keeps waiting for you to come home. I didn't respond, but I thought about that room, the place where I'd planned my escape, where I'd discovered their lies, where I'd finally found the strength to save myself. Home was different now. It was this small apartment with its paid-up rent. It was dinner with Rachel celebrating her promotion. It was coffee with Valeria planning my financial future. It was Kingsley checking in to make sure I was safe. I opened my banking app and smiled at my growing savings account. Then I opened my calendar and booked a vacation. My first real one, paid for with my own money. Let them cry over my empty room. I was too busy filling my new life. Some people say revenge doesn't bring peace. They're wrong. Sometimes revenge is just another word for freedom. And freedom, that feels like finally coming home.